Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ask, Learn, Grow, Q&A, updates and insights shared by the team at Reef. I've got Melanie Williams with me today, who's our Head of Strategy and Conversion, and today's topic is landing pages. And Melanie's going to talk about how do you know if you've got a good one that's working well, and why does that matter? So, Mel, over to you. Do you want to introduce the topic a little bit more and add some context to this?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Those of you who have actually tackled any landing page before knows that writing a quality landing page is really not an easy task. You need to understand what the purpose of the page is that you have, along with current trends, what's working with your consumers, what's happening in the market, what kind of messages engages the audience that you're looking to convert. So Reef Digital has actually put out a really great checklist and video on how to approach structuring and writing great landing pages that convert, and you can find the link to that video just down below. So the topic of today focuses not on how to develop a landing page, but once you're live, how to find and analyze the data to understand the performance and find any opportunities that may be out there for optimization. So when you're thinking about your landing page, it's really, really important that you keep clear on what the objective of this landing page is. For marketers, a landing page is intended to drive prospects to take a specific action, whether it's a purchase or a sign up or an opt-in. Your landing page should ideally be designed to drive a single call to action rather than some multiple actions. So studies from the US have shown that having a singular call to action on a landing page can actually increase conversion rates by around 266%.
So the next question that you might be thinking is there a limit on the number of landing pages that you should have? Or should you just have the one landing page for your campaign?
The short answer to that one is no. It doesn't really matter how many landing pages you have on your site. Actually, the more targeted that you make the messaging on your landing page, the higher the chance of connecting and converting with that particular audience. Recently, one of our clients in the NFP space wanted to know whether they should drive multiple campaigns to one general donations page. And in concept, I suppose this does make sense. But in this case, each campaign was featuring a different story on how donations would assist those in need. And if your prospect engages with this story through an ad or through a social channel and wants to donate, they click through and then they end up on a page that has no connection to the original ad or social piece that they originally connected with. It can actually cause some confusion, some lack of trust and uncertainty, which in turn can actually reduce their willingness to commit their money. So we advise that each of these different campaigns should have a specific donation landing page to ensure the consistency of messaging across each of their interactions. The result was that the combined donation rates increased across the 4 new targeted landing pages.
Great stuff. And so now that you've kind of defined the purpose of the page, crafted it to suit your prospects, and the page is now live, how do you know it's working well? Like what kind of things should you look for?
Yeah, sure. So before getting into how to find and interpret and use the data that we can collect about your landing page, it's really important to remember that all landing pages need to be optimized for mobile. It's something that many marketers actually forget in the excitement of putting a landing page live. But with more and more prospects accessing their information via digital devices, if your page doesn't load correctly or it takes too long to load, you stand to lose a really big chunk of these prospects. Okay, so once you've got all of that set up, the things you're going to need to track performance and optimize your page. Obviously, Google Analytics is the first tool that you need to have, and everyone will be familiar with the Google Analytics platform. But secondly, you probably want to seriously consider some conversion rate optimization tools for your site. Again, some marketing research in the US has shown that sites which combine Google Analytics and some CRO tools such as heat mapping and session recordings can increase return on investment on average by around 223%. Hotjar or Crazy Egg are 2 platforms that are really easy to install, and they do offer free accounts. And they offer some really valuable insights into the actions that your users take on page. If you're looking in Google Analytics and the data shows that there's a problem with the traffic on one of your pages, then these user intelligence tools can then clearly show you exactly where users are clicking and they're scrolling on the page, and gives you great insight as to being able to work out what needs to be fixed next. So back to the purpose of your landing page, knowing what your page is there to achieve helps you know which metrics you need to look at and know whether it's a success. But first you need to be able to find and become familiar with the capabilities of a report in Google Analytics. So jumping through into a screen share, the best report for having a look at our landing page data is obviously the landing pages report. Now this can be found over here on the left-hand side under behavior, site content, and landing pages. You can see here the landing page report. It shows all your Google Analytics traffic and user metrics at a page level. It's pretty important to note here that Google Analytics thinks of landing pages slightly different than marketers do. It'll look at any page where a prospect first enters your site and calls that a landing page. So that's why you'll see a whole list of different pages, not necessarily just the page that you're wanting to drive to. Additionally, you can also find over here the conversion statistics for each of these different pages. To find the specific page that you want to evaluate, you can either look down on the side and the left and find the URL in this list of pages, or if you can't see it there, you can use the lookup tool, which is up here above the conversions column, and just type the name of the page that you are looking for. And that will then bring up the stats for the particular page. A great place to start, if you're not an analytics expert, is to look at these key metrics. Firstly, sessions, the number of visitors that have been to your page. Keep in mind, this can also include return users, so one user who's gone back to the same page a number of times. If you don't want to see that, and you only want to see a number of users who have visited your page, you can look at the new users section over here. Next, bounce rate. The bounce rate is a single page session on your site. So in analytics, a bounce rate is calculated as a session that triggers only a single page view without anyone going through to a secondary page within your site. We also want to look at pages per session, which is the number of pages a visitor views after being on your landing page, and then conversions and conversion rate, which is the number of visitors who have completed the desired action on your landing page. So as we mentioned before, ideally your landing page should have one clear call to action. However, sometimes you need to have maybe one or two or even three call to actions on the same page. And if that's the case, you can use the drop-down menu up the top next to the conversions heading to drop down and choose to see either one goal, the other goal, or all goals as a total. So this is where it highlights it's so important to know the purpose of your page. For example, if the prospect can achieve a desired action within your landing page, for example, just reading a blog, then having a high bounce rate figure and a low pages per session figure is not really a concern, as users will just read the page and then they exit. So they're not expected to progress through to your site and look at multiple pages after your landing page. However, if your page objective is to provide prospects with some information that will tempt them to enter your online store, then the high bounce rate and low pages per session may be an issue. It shows that visitors are leaving your page without completing your desired action. This is where you'll need to do some deeper digging into why this is happening and start to utilize heat mapping tools to tell you some more.
Okay, good insights, Mel. So can you sum up briefly in a couple of points what people should be looking for, just to recap on what we've just been through?
Sure. So in general, you'd be looking for an increasing session numbers over time or through the duration of the campaign that you're running. You need to look at a bounce rate that makes sense for your business and the objective of your landing page. It could be 100% or it could be somewhere around 50%, whatever makes sense to your business. And then you should be looking at the number of conversions on your page increasing month to month or over the time of your campaign. Good practice is to also understand where the traffic is coming on your page. So adding the source medium to the landing page report provides you with these insights on how people are actually arriving onto your landing page. If you're running a campaign over a number of channels, such as Facebook or Google Search, you'll be able to see here which of these channels are driving the most traffic, along with which of these channels are actually converting the best. And these insights can show you where you may need to increase your marketing budget or reevaluate some of your messaging or audience targeting. So to see the source medium metric, just go to the secondary dimension box at the top of the landing page column, choose commonly used, and then find source medium. And you can see here it adds in the column for source medium and tells you which channel it's coming from and also the type, whether it's organic, referral, or paid media. Finally, at the top of the landing page report is the date field. So it's great to be able to set the dates that you want to look at, whether it's the duration of your campaign or month to month, and be able to pull up a trend graph over time to see the performance of your page.
Okay, so how do you know if the numbers that you're looking at are good numbers? You know, what should people be looking for in this data?
Great. Well, a great starting point is to potentially go in and check what the industry averages are for your industry as the starting point. However, averages are just that. They're just averages. So they don't reflect the nature of your unique business or your objectives. So once you've got a bit of a benchmark and a bit of a start, the best way to measure success over time is just to make sure that you're seeing these key metrics improving and then moving towards your set objectives.
Great stuff. Thanks for sharing those insights, Mel, and for taking the time to go in depth and share your screen to actually show people where things are located. Anything else to add just before we kind of wrap things up?
Today was a pretty top-level overview. It's a great place to start and to understand how to have a look at your landing page performance in Google Analytics. There is a hell of a lot more you can do with Google Analytics over time once you get more familiar with the platform, but I hope that today's been a great overview of where you can start.
Fantastic, thanks for sharing. And that wraps up today's video. If you've got any questions about landing pages or anything digital marketing related that you'd like to see the team answer, feel free to send them in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified of when the next video is available. Other than that, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.